Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video tutorial, what you're going to be learning is about basic animation in Maya, and the current version that I'm using is Maya 2015. So if you are using a different version, there might be a little different here and there. Alright, so now what I have here is a simple seed consisting of a plane that this will be a floor, so I'm going to name this as a floor, and of course this will be a ball, so I will name this as a ball in the channel box. Alright, so it's just a simple setup here, and to explain us about the basic of animation in Maya. Right, first of all, I'm gonna basically hide the grid, so by clicking at this option over here. Alright, so we get rid of that grid, and the first thing I want to introduce you is the time slider here, which you can find down here. So this is where the main core of the animation will happen. Alright, you call this a time slider because there is an active time slider that you see here, a small box here, and you will have a player, which I think you are familiar with some of this icon here. Alright, if you click on this is a play button, so if I click here, so it will play. If I click the play icon, which is in the opposite, it will play backwards. So obviously you always want to like play forward. And then you also have the go back from the starting frame icon here. Alright, and then you can also have the other one, which is go to the end. Alright, okay, and then you have these two, which is if I click on this one, step forward means it will step frame by frame. Okay, so that's about some of the plays. I will explain to you what this icon is later on. Okay, now, so what you see here when I hit play, the time slider play, just like you know when you play video in a video player, all right, like VLC or media player, is the same as that. All right, but the thing that you see here, the number here that you see, is basically, it is not in a second like here, 5 second, 10 second. No, it's not. It's actually 5 frames, 10 frames. It is calculated in frames. So now why is it calculating in frames? So if you're new to the animation concept, so let me explain to you a little bit about what is why animation here is done in frames. So basically it is calculated, it is measured in frames per second, which means it's in FPS. The short form is FPS, not first person shooter, but it's frames per second. So the speed of the animation here is measured by frames per second. So what that means is a number of frames or images that are sequentially projected or displayed per second. Alright, for example, like if I set my time frame to be 25 frames per second, which means from 1 to 25 here, this is considered as 1 second, and then another 25 frames, which makes it 50 frames, which means this duration here is 2 seconds. Alright, so as easy as that. You will appreciate animating in frames when you try it. Alright, if you are new to this. Okay, how would you know that you want to put 25 frames or 30 frames or 24 is based on the industry standard for duration formats that is out there. Alright, so basically, like if you are animating for your animation for a cinema, all right, in the movie. So basically you will go about 24 frames per second, and cinema uses that format. So if you are basically doing for general video, all right, like general HD video that we have today is usually about, you can go about 24. You can also go about 25 frames per second, and you can also, if you look at YouTube nowadays, there's video that is shot in 60 frames per second. Those are the new things that is coming. But in this tutorial, we're going to go about setting it to 25 frames per second. Okay, so before I teach you about how to set the frames settings, I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about down here. So the top here is the time slider, and then down here you have the range slider. So range slider is the area where you can actually set the length of your animation here. Okay, for example, the inner column here, okay, is set to 1, and then you have another inner column which is for the out. This is the in, this is the out. All right, so if I set this to about 100, you will see the range here start from 1 all the way to 100. Okay, and then you have another outer column here. All right, the outer in and outer out. This one basically indicates the total duration of your animation. For example, if I set 1 and then I set 250, okay, but what I see here is still 1 to 100. So the one that determine what is here is the inner column here. So if I want to use the maximum of it, I can go 1, and then here I will set this to 250. So it will be from 1 all the way to 250. All right, so hopefully you got it. Another one here is the bar here. I can interactively click. If you see there's a small square beside the number, both in and out, I can click and hold, and I can actually adjust it like this instead of typing the value here. So I can always place this to 1, and then let's say I adjust this to about 140. So if I want to like skip through, if I want to go to this empty area here, I can just put my mouse at the center of the range and move the whole thing. Now I'm viewing from frame 43 to 182. All right, so that's how basically you navigate and use the range slider here. It's going to get very handy if you're animating kind of long duration animation, about 500 frames like that. You want to be able to zoom in, and you want to be able to zoom out. Another thing about zooming in and zoom out, you will see the difference here. If I put this back to 1, and let's say if I just want to see about 20 frames, so you can see the ruler here kind of like zoom in, and you will see the gap, and even the active time slider here is very big in icons. All right, you can see here. All right, it fills up the whole thing. But the more frames you put inside your current time slider, you will basically see that the ruler gets smaller and smaller. All right, so this is a very kind of like good if you use this to the advantage for you to like work in segment per segment of the animation. All right, so you work like 1 to 100, and then you move on to 100 to 200, things like that. All right, okay, now so let's move on to setting up the animation preferences. So before we go to that settings, I would also want to highlight here, you see the key icon here. If your key icon is somehow turned off, which is not red color, you should turn it on. So what this key is, it is actually an auto key. All right, so what auto key does is basically it will automate certain changes that you have done to the object, which I will explain to you more later on. All right, okay, so now let's go to the animation preferences. One way to get to the animation preferences is beside the key there. Alright, this icon over here. So if I click on this, it will open up my preferences, alright, and it will automatically go to time slider here, which I can adjust certain things here. But you can also get this menu. If I cancel this, I can also get the same menu by going to Windows, setting and preferences, okay. Then I just need to highlight the category here. I need to highlight my time slider. Okay, cool. Alright, so I'm gonna briefly explain to you what this what's inside here. So basically what's on the time slider section here, you don't have to touch this, just leave the height to 1. If you need to adjust, you can go ahead, but just leave it as default. It should be fine. Okay, it will determine the playback start end, which you can already configure here. You don't have to configure over here. Alright, now I'm going to jump straight to the playback. Alright, so playback is quite important here. If you're by default, usually your playback speed is set to play every frames. For purpose of animation, to see your timing properly, you must make sure you change it to a real time. As you can see, it is 24. Like I said just now, I want my animation to be in 25 frames per second, but this is 24. So how do I change this? When I click this, there's no 25, but I just keep this as real time. So if you want to change this from 24 to 25, what you can do is you go to another category here, which is the settings. Alright, settings, and then you see time, film 24. So I'm going to change this to PAL 25. Alright, and I will go back to my time slider here, and you will start to see the real time is set to 25 frames per second. So that's about it. Then I'm going to hit save, and you can see some changes here. You need to be careful on this. Every time you do that, something weird happen in Maya, that there will be a floating number. All right, which means you have like a 1 point something value that is very dangerous for you to work on animation with your animation. So you need to basically, before you start animating this, you need to make sure this value is at the rounded number. Right, so value of 1 back, adjust this to 100, and also the end here, go back to 250, and just wiggle this a bit, it will update. So make sure you deal with a rounded number, do not deal with a floating number. Right, in the future it will be quite a problematic for you to move on keyframes, which I will explain what is keyframes. Alright, so our animation preferences is set, and it's time to start animating. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to animate the ball here. Alright, I'm going to use the move key. I'm going to animate the ball to slightly move to this location. Alright, so how do I make that when I play this, the ball will start moving? So what it uses in most even 2D and 3D application for animation, the heart of it is using keyframes. Right, so what is keyframes? Keyframe is what records the transformation of an object, position, rotation, or scale. Alright, so the position, the rotation, and the scale, all this can be recorded. Alright, all this can be recorded at a specific frames, okay, in the timeline. Alright, so that is basically what it does, and it needs at least 2 keyframes. Alright, you will see a red tick here later when I show you. It needs at least 2 keyframes in order for Maya to translate the animation. Okay, so I'm going to show you how what I mean about that. So let's say at first I want the ball to start moving right after the player hit or go through or surpass frame 10. So I'm going to put a keyframes here which will record the scale the rotation and the position. So to put a keyframes, to plant a keyframes, make sure also your auto key is turned on. Okay, red color. Okay, all you need to do is hit the S key. Okay, S key on your keyboard. Bam. So you'll see a very thin needle-like red keyframes. Okay, the red needle there represents the keyframes. So right now Maya is recording this object at this particular time. The position, rotation and scale is at this location, and you can also see and in the channel box here that all the value here for the translate, which is position, rotation and scale, is red color. Red color value means Maya is putting keyframes and recording it. Okay, so now I'm gonna move it now ahead to 30 frames. Okay, so and plant a keyframe again. So hit the S key. I'm sorry, I have my value here, so I'm gonna like escape. I'm gonna cancel this. Escape to cancel it. Make sure you click outside and click again. Do not highlight your value here in the channel box, and hit the S key. There's another keyframes there, but now I need to move it ahead. So what's going to happen? So it's going to be moving straight in front. Alright, so if you're not sure, again you can hit S again. So make sure that your current time slider is at that location of the keyframes. So what happened now, if I go back and forth, you'll see the motion between two locations translated, or if you're familiar with Flash, it's called motion tween. Alright, so Maya will automatically do some motion tween to translate from one particular position to another particular position at the given time. Alright, so if I go back here and I play, you'll see that it will start to move. Okay, cool. So let's say if I decide to, like adjust this position, I don't want it to be here at this particular frame. I can always update this keyframe that I've done by making sure my active time slider is set to that 30 frames position. Alright, and then I can move it. Let's say I want to move it forward or make it shorter a bit. Alright, so I don't have to hit S again, because auto key helps me to automatically store that changes that I have done. So that's the beauty of auto key. Right, okay, so when I play back again, so the ball, you see it stops there. Okay, now what's the difference without the auto key? Okay, let's say if I turn it off and still at the same thing here, and let's say I decide to change. Okay, so I don't want it to be here, I want it to be in front. Alright, so without hitting any S and auto key is turned off, if I go back to my time slider here, if I scrub it back, you see it doesn't record, it just forgets about it, that I have actually made the changes. So it's like, what, I forgot. Alright, so if you're animating without the auto key, you must make sure when you do the changes, you hit the S key to update the position. You have to manually do it. Of course, the name is auto, so the other version is manual. So to speed your animation up, you must make sure you turn on your auto key. So I can just do my changes here and put it here, and it will update itself. Very, very handy. Another thing about auto key is that it will record only the things that you basically do or implement to the model. So basically, if I go back here and if I, let's say, bring the ball up, you will see there's a key that is created automatically. It is the result of the auto key that is turned on. It will automatically record the changes that I've done. So now I have the ball bounce like that. Okay, alright, so I will go a bit more deeper about this, but we need to move on to the next section. which is manipulating these keyframes. Right, manipulating the keyframes. So the first thing I want to teach you is selecting the keyframes. You can select single keyframes, or you can select a group of keyframe. Right now I have 3 keyframes. So if you want to select, or you must highlight it. Alright, so by holding shift and then just click nearby the keyframes, and you see that red bar here. Alright, as long as you know that the keyframe is affected if the keyframe is highlighted in yellow, so which means the keyframe is inside the selection already. Let's say if you want to just cancel it, just click outside anywhere, it will unselect. If I hold shift again, if I just click here, see, you will see that this is not in. So if I hit shift nearby here, you know that it is in. Okay, let's say what I can do with that, if once I have the keyframe highlighted, okay, let's say I do this, click and drag my mouse. Okay, hold shift and click and drag my mouse. So again, hold shift, click and drag my mouse to expand the bar. You will see the keyframe is inside the bar in yellow color. So you will be able to actually move the keyframes. Right now I'll be able to move only 1 keyframes, but I want to show you a bit more clearly. I'm going to unselect this. I'm going to move all 3 of this. So by holding shift, and from here I click and drag my selection so that all 3 is there. Okay, so if I want to move this all 3 keyframes to another place, you will see a yellow arrow here. Okay, one is at the beginning, one is at the end, and there's a beginning and end at the center here. Okay, so all that actually means something. So let's say if I want to move the whole three keyframes here somewhere else in the timeline, I can put my mouse at the center here, click and drag, and I'll be able to move the whole keyframes together. Click outside, and you will unselect the keyframes. Alright, so that's how you move the whole keyframes. Now I'm going to undo that again. I'm going to click Z to undo that. So I'm going to select the whole thing again. Now that is when you click and hold at the center of that left and right arrow. What if I dragged the end arrows only and move it left and right? So if I move it right, see what happened here? What it does is it scales the keyframes. See, it scales the keyframes. Now these keyframes, all these selected 3 keyframes is spaced out even further away from each other. And if I click outside and I play this, you will see the animation will become more slower. You see that? More slower. Okay, now I'm going to select all this again. I'm going to minimize this again. Let's say if I want to make that ball bounce more faster, I can squeeze this in, and then I can play the animation, then become more faster. That's how you control timing. So timing is actually part of the animation principles, which I will teach you in a later video about animation principles and how to animate properly. Alright, so in this tutorial I'm just going to cover you the mechanics of how to animate. Okay, so now that you know how to manipulate those keyframes, how to adjust it. Okay, another thing to manipulate the keyframe is deleting the keyframe. So how to delete a keyframe? Let's say I don't want the center keyframes here, I want to delete it. So what I can do is I can make sure I highlight it, hold shift and drag, and then I right click and then choose delete, and the keyframe is gone. Okay, I can also do, I'm going to undo this. I can also just click nearby here, right click on it and hit delete. Sometimes you will miss it. Okay, because there's a reason why that I'm going to explain to you later on. Okay, so alright, now problem why I can't delete by right clicking and delete is because Remember, I stretch the keyframes. Now that's the problem here. So if I hold shift and select the whole thing again, remember I stretched and I squeezed. So the last one I squeezed. Okay, so what happened here is you notice the position of the keyframes is not exactly at the original place, which is right at the ruler here. So actually what happened here, I'm gonna basically snap my time slider here to that current keyframes by clicking on this one. Alright, and this one is for the previous and the one that is after. Okay, let's say if I snap to 22, the frame near keyframe near 22 by clicking to the back previous. So what it does is, see, it snapped to the value of 22.73. You can also see it over here, 22.73. If I go snapping to the more previous keyframes, which is the second keyframes, it's 15.5. So now that's the problem here. So the problem happened because I squeeze and stretch the keyframes, so it no longer snapped to a rounded number of keyframes. It will be a 20 point something, 30 point something, which is very problematic to deal with. So how do we solve this problem here? So to solve this problem is, every time, just remember this, every time when you squeeze or stretch your keyframes, you must make sure while it's still selected, while the keyframe is still selected, highlighted and selected, you right click at any of the red bar here, and then you go to snapped. Okay, so what it does is it snaps the keyframe to its closest keyframe rounded number as possible. So basically now it is snapping. So if I go back here using this key, it is snapping to 10. Go back, selecting forward, it is snapping to 17, and this is snapping to 25. So this makes it easier for us to animate. So I'm going to show you how to delete that now. So if I put my mouse here, right click, and I delete, you will see the keyframe disappear. Just now when I try, I cannot, because the keyframe is not at a rounded number. So I'm going to undo this by clicking the Z key, okay, to undo again one more time. Alright, and you can also delete multiple key by highlighting the desired keyframe that you want to delete, and right click and delete it. Alright, so that will remove the keyframes. So now the last part about manipulating your keyframes here is how to copy and paste a keyframe. You can actually reuse the keyframes. So let's say now if I just want to delete the middle one here. Okay, so now if I make at frame 10 is from the beginning, and then frame 25 is over here. Let's say if I skip over to frame 40, I want it to go back to the beginning. Alright, so what I can do here is, instead of manually hitting the S key and moving it back there, alright, so what I can do is I can copy this first keyframes by selecting on it. I right click and then choose copy, and then I will go bring my time slider to where I want to paste it at frame 40, and right click and then paste. That will paste the same keyframe here to here. So when I play now, it goes forward, it goes back again. Alright, so that's how you basically manipulate the keyframes. Okay, so I've shown you a few tricks there just now. Alright, okay. Another thing about animation is that when you do animation like this, it goes front, it goes back. Usually what animators will do is to go back to the traditional style of like drawing frame by frames. You can also see the animation in not an in-between mode, not the tween mode basically. So when I play here, it automatically translate. So usually what animator will do is, let's say I'm going to delete these keyframes. So I can actually see just the position of the keyframe that I put without the in between here, okay, or without the twinning here from 2 keyframes. So what I can do is I can right click at any of the ruler area here of the time slider, and then I can enable step preview. Alright, so what happened now, if I scrub my timeline, you will see it jumps, right, from 10. See, there's no in between there. So when I hit play, alright, and then let's say I go to frame 42 and hit the S key, and then I make some changes, it will move this location, hit the S key just to make sure. So what I can see here now is I can see the breakdown of the ball animation in a pose to pose style. Alright, so if I know this pose 1, pose 2, pose 3, right, pose 1 here, pose 2, and then it goes to pose 3. So that is usually what animator will actually switch on and off, especially using the Maya software, to see whether their pose and the timing is correct. I will go into more detail when it comes to learning the proper way of animation, right, of animating by using the animation principle in another video. Alright, but if you want to go back to the normal mode, you can always go back, right click here and uncheck enable step preview, and then when I play back again, you will have your twin again. Alright, now the thing about time slider here, it can only show you the keyframe based on the object you select, right? See, if I select my ball here, I can see the keyframe show up, and if I unselect my object, I cannot see the keyframes. Right, I'm gonna click I'm gonna create a cube. Alright, and then I'm going to animate the cube in a different timeline. Alright, here in the time slider here, and then see the cube is going to slide, and I'm going back in the middle, hit the S key, just let's say add some rotation. Alright, so as you can see, I have 2 objects animated, and in the timeline I can only see the object I'm selecting. I can only see the keyframe based on the object that I select. So if I select the cube, I can see the keyframe for the cube, and if I hold Control Shift and select the ball, then I can see both keyframes, right, available for me to edit, right? So that's how the time slider shows the keyframe, based on the object you select. Alright, okay, so I'm gonna go back here, delete the cube. Okay, now we coming to our last segment here, which is once we have our animation, say I'm gonna add some, let's say some kind of bounce, hit S key. I'm gonna, let's say I don't want to rotate it yet, and then here I will spin the ball, so if the ball will spin starting from here all the way to 42. So I'm gonna go my time slider to 42 so that it will update these keyframes, and I will rotate on the y-axis like this. Right, so the more I rotate, the more faster it's gonna spin. So as you see, when I'm animating, you see the ball start to spin, but it will start only from 25 frames to the 42 frames. The previous one it won't. Okay, so when I play this now, you will see the ball will start spinning. Alright, so once I have some animation going on here, it's time to preview the animation. Previewing your animation is a very fast way to actually see your animation in action in a proper time. Sometimes when your your 3D scene is there's too much polygons and it's too heavy, you won't be able to play the animation and see it in real time. So the best way is to see it in a video format. Right, so you have to render this in a Play Blast. So how to render in Play Blast? All you need to do is this is the quickest way. You just right click at any of the ruler here. Make sure you set your time slider range. Let's say I don't need the rest of this timeline here. I can squeeze this, or I just type here to frame 60. So it start to 1 to 60, and then I can right click any of the timeline area here, I mean the time slider here, and you'll see a Play Blast here, but do not click at the Play Blast word yet. Click at the square option on the side here. There's a square option here, alright, to bring out the settings. Okay, so what we need to see is to change is you don't have to change any of these two. Okay, and the format here, starting with the format. Alright, so format, you can choose AVI, usually AVI. I'm using a window base. I'm using window, so basically but I always like to preview it in QuickTime. So if you don't have QT here, stands for QuickTime, you can always go and download QuickTime Player. I'm gonna spell this out. QuickTime Player, just Google it, right, and download. It's free. Okay, just download the normal one, it's free, QuickTime Player, and you will have this. And then the encoding, change it to H.264. Quality, up to you, but if I want it more clear, I will put it to 100. And display size from render settings. Render settings, okay, this is another thing about render settings. So from render settings means from this option here, render settings. So talking about frame size, display size here of the video. So I'm going to go in the common tab, go down here to image size. So what the video size is going to be is HD by default, HD 540. Let's say I want it to be HD 720. Okay, the HD size. So this is the resolution that I'm going to be rendering. So this render setting is going to borrow these settings to get the Play Blast video size. I'm going to close this, and also I need to frame my animation. And also right now this framing is not 720. I can click on I'm going to render using the perspective view. So I'm going to click on the resolution gate here, which is the blue ball icon here. Alright, so it will create a bracket or like a safe zone of what is the actual size of the 720. You can see it, the number here. Okay, I'm going to frame this. I'm going to unselect any of the object here, and I go back here, my render settings. Scale, just leave it to 1. Okay, so we will use full size. Frame padding, just leave it to here's another then we come to the last section here, which is remove temporary files. Yeah, you can leave it there. Save to file. So let's say I'm gonna reset this so that I'm sorry, but I'm gonna reset this so that we can start from beginning, like you just newly opened this. So basically, again, format QuickTime, and then change this to H.264. I should be up here. Quality to 200. Sorry. Okay. From render settings, scale to 1, and then you must check the save to file, because I want it to save in a specific folder. I want the preview video to be saved in a specific folder. So check this, and then the file name, basic animation file, you can change this if you want your preview to be a different name. and then choose a location where you want to save. Let's say I want to choose on my desktop. Alright, on my desktop, and then I'm going to put there, let's say ball animation preview. So Play Blast is a preview, so I'm gonna hit save. So every time I Play Blast, it will save in this location and with this name. So if I click now, I can hit the Play Blast button. You will see it will quickly render the animation very fast. Alright, so usually it will automatically open the QuickTime player for you to preview it. If it doesn't open, you can always go to the location that you have saved, which is here, and I can double click on this, then I can preview my animation. Alright, so that's my preview animation, which is in the 722 HD 720 format. Alright, I'll go back here and look at the details. You see it's 720 HD 720, 25 frames per second. Okay, so that is it about the tutorial for today. Thank you for watching. If you do like my video tutorial, please do subscribe for more video to come. So thanks for watching. I'll see you again. Bye bye.